Welcome to Chasing Genius, the number one show for striving artists in pursuit of their own creative geniuses. My name is Crystal, and I am your host for this show. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about imposter syndrome. Yes, imposter syndrome, imposter syndrome, imposter syndrome. Why do creatives feel like imposters? That is the question that we are going to answer today. How do we overcome it, and what are the steps that we can take as we are in pursuit of our own creative geniuses to no longer feel like a phony or a fraud in our field? So I did a quick Googles, about what imposter syndrome is and what it's defined as. And basically, this is the internet's definition. Imposter syndrome can be defined as the persistent inability to believe that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own effort or skills. It results in you feeling like a fraud or a phony and doubting your own abilities. Even when you have the proof that you're awesome and achieving and doing great things, you still carry the weight of being a fraud. Creatives experience imposter syndrome at times in high doses. So it kind of does make sense why, as artists and creatives, we tend to experience imposter syndrome or struggle with it, because we work in a highly subjective field. I mean, what one group of people will think is like, yo, that's super dope. Another group would be like, nah, that's so lame. It's not cool. It's not part of culture, or like they corny for that. So it does make sense why we're kind of teeter-totter with being imposters or not being imposters. And there are different types of imposter syndromes that we can all experience, and I think a lot of imposter syndrome truly stems from not having full confidence or that self-belief in ourselves and in our work and in our ability to come up with creative ideas or unique or cool ideas. Feeling like an imposter, just like the word itself, imposter, means someone who is posing as something. You're pretending to be something that you are not, or that you don't feel that you are. And because you feel like you're posing as something that you're not, when you're given the opportunity to kind of do that thing, you can do it. It's not that you can't do it. It's just that you feel like, I haven't fully been doing this thing, or I haven't done this thing for such a long time. And because of that lack of confidence, you tend to just automatically feel like you're an imposter, or that you're not excelling in the way that you should. There's a PhD psychologist, her name is Dr. Valerie Young, who said there are 5 different types of imposter syndrome. There is the perfectionist, there is the natural genius, there's the expert, there's the soloist, and then there's the superhuman. Now, the first one, the perfectionist, is what it means. It's someone who feels that they have to literally be perfect in everything that they do, and then if they're not perfect, then they're not, they're an imposter. And that can be hurtful because we're not perfect. We're human beings. We're not God. So we make mistakes. We can fail. We might not get 100% in everything that we put our effort in. And just because we didn't get 100%, it doesn't mean that you're an imposter. The second one is the natural genius. This is someone who feels that they literally have to know everything. And if they don't know everything, or they can't learn it fast enough, like someone who wants to learn how to play guitar, for example. I've been trying to learn how to play guitar for a very long time. I'm not very good at it. I could play a couple songs, but I'm not very good at it. But someone who's just learning, who just bought a guitar, for example, they pick it up, and within the first month, if they are not able to play a song in the first month, they kind of just feel like they're not competent. They're not good enough, because it takes them a lot longer to master a skill in comparison to somebody else. Then we have the expert. The expert is kind of like the person who wants to know everything there is to know about a certain subject or topic. And if they don't know everything in that subject or topic or field, then they feel like they're an imposter. It's insane because when you say these things out loud, you're like, well, I can't know everything. Like, the world is changing every day, or like, I can't be perfect at everything, or like, I don't have to be a naturally intelligent person. When you say these things out loud, it's like, then why do we struggle with these things? You know, like, why is it so difficult for somebody like us to get over that hump, you know? And then you have the soloist, who is someone who doesn't like to ask for help. And I know a lot of people, myself included, asking for help can make us feel small. It can make us feel dumb. It can make us feel stupid. And then if you ask for help, right? And let's say you ask for help on this one thing, and then everyone loves it, right? You get all the yo, this looks really good. This looks really great. I loved it. You're going to feel like I didn't deserve it because I had to ask for help. And because I asked for help, the onus isn't on me because I didn't really do it myself. And that could really hinder, you know, people from being able to grow because they don't want to ask somebody for help. And then the last of the types of imposter syndrome is the super person, which is the grind don't stop, the hustle don't stop. You know what I'm saying? In order to be great, you have to be hustling 247. If you're not hustling 247, nothing is deserved. You don't deserve any of it. You got to be the hardest working person. And so I'm asleep when I die, like those kinds of people. And then when they take a rest, they're like kind of like beating themselves up because they had a rest day. Like, I'm telling you, these are people who work 247 all the time, like no sleep, no rest, no none of that. And then when they take a rest, they're like, you know, I don't deserve anything. You know, I don't deserve it because I'm taking a break, and yada, 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 yada. And to be honest, I think I've experienced all of this to some varying levels, you know. Through learning this topic, I learned that imposter syndrome is definitely internal, you know. It's something that I experience and that I'm working through, and I know a lot of other creatives, like my friends, are working through as well. But the interesting thing is imposter syndrome kind of starts within childhood. And I can speak for myself. You know, I grew up in a Nigerian immigrant household, and from the day you're born, you're taught that you got to be excellent. You know, you got to be the first in your class. You got to get straight A's. You got to study hard. And it didn't even matter, like, what you were doing per se. Like, if you played sports, you had to be the best. And then also add on top of that being, you know, a person of color, being a black woman, black man, you know, we're taught early on that we have to be twice as good in anything that we do. So when you're kind of taught like failure is not okay, you're not okay to make mistakes, you always have to be the best, we then grow into these adults who are afraid to fail, who are afraid to make mistakes, who are afraid to ask for help. And that doesn't service anybody except hurt us, because now we doubt ourselves. We feel like we're never going to be great. We don't even celebrate our wins because it's not exactly what we wanted. And instead of like just enjoying life and the journey and the experience of being artists, we're just disappointed in ourselves, and we make ourselves feel bad. It's not even like other people are like, yo, you didn't yada yada, you suck, like you're lame. It's like we're beating ourselves up and giving ourselves negative self-talk for falling short to our standards that are most times damn near impossible for us to achieve, because we've literally set the bar so high that it's hard for us to even reach that bar. Be a kid of immigrants and then tell them you want to be an artist. The level of doubt and pressure that you put on yourself to be the best because you ain't gonna be that doctor or engineer or lawyer, it eats at you. It eats at you crazy because you already know that you have people not even believing in you. So that is, I would say, long story short of imposter syndrome. We still have the ability to unlearn these things. You know, a lot of being an adult and growing up is unlearning the things that don't service us and that don't, you know, help us. So the good thing is imposter syndrome is eternal, and we can course correct and we don't need anything outside of ourselves to be able to unpack imposter syndrome. We just have to have a willingness to be gentle with ourselves. We have to have the willingness to like unlearn the behaviors that don't serve us and go from there. So there are 3 things I would say that really help with overcoming imposter syndrome. And the first is to stop comparing yourself to others. I recently heard that comparison is the thief of joy. Literally, like, when you measure your success to the yardstick of someone else's success, you'll always fall short. Point blank. Like, you'll always fall short. Like, just think about it. No two people are the same. Not even twins. Like, you can hang around twins long enough, identical twins long enough, you start to see how different they are, even in terms of like facial structure and features and things like that. Everyone has their own personal hurdles, battles, and struggles that they are dealing with. So like, no two people are the same. So when you are comparing yourself to someone who's literally not like you, you're always going to fall short, because their journey is completely different from your journey. And it really starts from you learning to embrace your own individual journey, because it's unique to you, is unique to who you want to become. And all the things that you experience is what builds your character, your identity, your creative eye, your work. It's literally pushing you to be the best version of yourself. And there is a space for you if you embrace who you are. You know, we're all work in progress. You know, no one is 100% perfect. No one is 100% where they want to be. And there are people who look at you and are like, yo, like, I wish I had, you know, your style. I wish I had your, you know, physique. I wish I had your creative eye. And then you, on the other hand, are looking at yourself and doubting yourself, you know? So it's a matter of just stop comparing, you know, and embrace who you are, and embrace it because it's unique to you and who and where you want to be and where you want to go. The second thing would be to learn to develop confidence in yourself and your skills that you do have. So like I had mentioned early on, imposter syndrome can also stem from having a lack of confidence in yourself. So let's say, for example, at work, my biggest weakness is design. And I'm guilty. I'm 100% guilty of comparing myself to my coworkers who went to school for design, who went to 4-year institutions, who have been working in the advertising field for 5+, 10+ years. I'm only a good 3 years in, but I compare myself to them when it comes to design. I'm like, they get a deck and they can like design that in like max 2 hours, find good images, find perfect fonts and colorways and all of that, and something like that would take me an entire day or even half a day to even be able to put that together. And still, I will still have feedback. Like, I'll still get like heavy critique from, you know, the CDs who are looking at that thing. And it's not that I don't believe I can become a good designer. I sometimes can feel like, man, I wish it was easy for me the way it's easy for them. But I'm not, you know, recognizing that they've had years of developing that skill to get to the level in which they're able to do that thing in like 2 hours, right? So the more I'm able to like continue to develop my design skill, continue to develop my design eye, I'm building that confidence, because the truth is we're not confident in our skills, right? You know, and that's kind of why we feel like an imposter. So we hide behind our achievements or our failures because we need that external validation to not feel like an imposter. Yet when we get there, we still feel inadequate because we haven't necessarily built that confidence. And the good thing is, confidence is a skill. People don't just wake up and they're just automatically confident. You know, it's something that you can develop, and it starts with you trusting yourself and believing that you can do whatever it is. You know, the more you do it, the better you get it. You know, they say practice makes perfect, but I don't even want to say that, because we're not trying to be perfect. It's more of like, the more you practice something, the better you are at that skill. You know, you got to do the reps. It takes 10,000 hours to be a master at something. 10,000 hours, let's just say that takes 10 years to get 10,000 hours, right? If you are able to get the 10,000 hours in, or get the 10,000 reps in order to get better at that skill, then by the end of it, you're not going to feel like an imposter. You're going to be like, yo, I can do that. Like, it doesn't really matter, you know, what situation I'm put in, you know I could deliver. So that's something that I'm doing my best to do this year, is like, I don't want to feel like an imposter when it comes to design related things, but I know I still got to put the reps in, to become better at it, that I want to feel a bit more confident that, I am able to deliver on these things. Like, yeah, I can make a mood board. Yeah, I can find, awesome images for this deck that fit the brand tone, yada, 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 So develop the confidence in yourself and develop the skills needed to help you become confident. So the last step, or the last point I have here, is don't be afraid to fail, but also don't be afraid to succeed. Yeah, you heard me. Don't be afraid to fail, but also don't be afraid to succeed. So we hear about fear of failure all the time. Like, don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Because you're afraid to fail, you don't want to try new things. You don't want to try that business idea out. You don't want to start that YouTube channel. You don't want to start that TikTok. Whatever it is, we're afraid of failing and failing in front of people and people judging us and making fun of us and things like that. But what's even more insidious than the fear of failure is the fear of succeeding. And I talk a little bit about that in episode 2 when I talk about the fear of being seen holding us back. But the fear of success is, once we get to that next level, not being able to maintain that level of success, or being able to accomplish more than that level of success. It's like we get the positive outcome, we get the achievement, and it doesn't make sense, right? Because we do all these things because we want to be successful. Like, we do these things because, I want to be successful at YouTube. I want to be successful at starting a podcast. I want to be successful in my blog. I want to be successful at work. But that fear of success kind of is the groundwork of imposter syndrome. Because an imposter feels that no matter what they accomplish or however they, whatever accolades and achievements they get, it's never enough, right? And the same could be said for success. I mean, we hear all the time that once people get rich, they want more. You know what I'm saying? Once they get to whatever their main goal was, they want more. They push the goalposts. They push it further. And once they get to that next one, then they push it again. And it's almost like nothing is ever enough. And that kind of success, or being able to accomplish something, can bring that feeling of like, I'm not enough, or it's not enough. And like, I'm also afraid of what people are going to say, seeing me in a negative light, or because of this fear, I don't want to be too successful, whatever that means, and I think one of the better ways to kind of reframe success or being successful is like, what's the best that could happen? A lot of times when we have these fears is because we're thinking about the worst case scenario. Whenever we're thinking we have like a big decision to make, people are like, what's the worst that could happen? Worst case scenario. What's the worst that could happen? Why do we think that? Like, why is it that when we're making a big decision, we think of the most scariest, craziest, most insane idea that could ever happen? Worst case scenario. But what if we started thinking, what's the best that could happen? What's the fruit of succeeding at this thing? Is it building a community? Is it your artwork getting out to multiple people? Is it people, giving you praises for this work that they connected with? Is it you reaching people that you never thought you could connect and reach with? Is it getting more money? Let's be honest. We don't want to be starving artists. You know what I'm saying? We do this. We want to make money from our art. I'm going to keep it $100. Like, we all want to make money from our work. Some of us want to get paid to be ourselves. So if that's your best case scenario, start feeling that and embracing that, Yeah, you might have haters, you know what I'm saying? You might get negative comments here and there. You might get people who don't think your work is cool. That's fine. But the best case scenario is you get loads of comments of people saying, yo, this is the best photograph I've ever seen. This is the best video I've ever seen. Your style is immaculate. This song is busting. Your blog post changed my life. Those are the words of encouragement that people still leave. There's a reason the news only talks about bad shit. The news don't ever talk about nothing good. Nothing. We don't want that for ourselves. We don't want that for our creative community and the work that we're building. So it's time to start thinking, what's the best case scenario, and not being afraid to succeed, because there are good things on the other side of you being successful, and you don't have to feel like an imposter just because you are successful. You are deserving of good things. I deserve good things. You deserve good things. You're not an imposter. You are you. You are going through your own journey. You are a light to others. You know what I'm saying? One of my favorite YouTubers, Hines, in hindsight, awesome guy. If you don't know his YouTube channel, man, check him out. Been following him for a very long time. But one of his favorite lines is, your credentials are in your spirit. Your credentials are in your spirit. It is internal to you. Yeah, you might have all these external accolades and validations and work and things that people love and people, are hungry to see and want to experience. But at the end of the day, what matters is how you feel about yourself. The credentials that you have in here that make you, that make your work bust out, that makes your work unique to who you are. You know what I'm saying? So overcoming imposter syndrome, a struggle that all creatives face, it starts within you. You get to choose who you want to be. You get to choose what kind of artist you want to be. You get to choose what type of individual you want to be. It all starts with you and being willing to evolve and to grow. And yeah, I know today was a long one, but thank you for rocking with me. If you made it to the end of this show, this episode, kudos to you. Shout out to you for listening, for rocking with me. And as always, the genius in me sees the genius in you, and I'm always rooting for you. Peace.